What is happening, YouTube? This is Hayes Anderson. This is a long overdue video on every guitar pedal that I own. I'm going to try to get through this as best as I can, but I'm going to warn you up front that I mumble and bumble through this. I'm going to stumble on my words and say the wrong thing, but I'm going to do the best that I can to get through each pedal and do so quickly and without wasting a lot of time, as much as I can, but I'm warning you, this is not easy. Okay, so I'm going to start with the pedals that are on the jam table that are always on. These are always available to be used, although they may not be used for any particular jam, but they should be easy to get to. That's the idea behind all the ones that are up here. So starting off is the Tragatronic P77. This is a special pedal. It uses a tube, and it also is supplementing a broken preamp on my rack mixer. So I have an analog drum machine going to that rack mixer, and then this is acting as the preamp for that drum machine essentially. Because it's in the patch bay, I can route anything else that I want to it, and then I can also route its output somewhere else to another track, etc. Next to it is the Mr. Black Blood Moon Blood and Chrome Reverb pedal. It has two modes. Green is the chrome mode, and then red is the blood mode. Its output and input are both connected to the patch bay. It's a mono pedal only, so right now, if I need to listen to it, its output is going to the patch bay. I will have to route that output to another track. Above it is the Mr. Black Stereo Vintage Ensemble. It has a stereo or mono input. Right now, it is also routed to the patch bay, so if I need to get a signal to it, I have to route that through the patch bay. However, its output is normalized to a stereo mixer on the rack, so I don't need to worry about patching that. Over here is the ElectroHarmonix Oceans 12 Dual Reverb. It comes off of my main mixer via two subgroups that I'm sort of treating as a stereo aux. So I can send stereo signals to it from that mixer, and then its output goes right back to that same mixer so that I don't suffer any phasing issues. Down here is my newest addition on the table. It is also my first Strymon pedal. This is the Deco. It is a tape saturation and double tracker. It's digital. What it does is it emulates two tape reels copying the same signal with one reel being delayed, so you can achieve flange, chorus, and very short delay effects with it. It's very, very nice, especially when I send a drum machine to it. This is also going through the patch bay, but its output is stereo, so I have that going to a stereo mixer on the rack, so I don't have to worry about patching the output. It just goes directly in. Also, it has two modes, stereo and mono, but that's enough of that for now. So this is the TC Electronics June 60 pedal. A lot of people really don't like this pedal, but it is sort of misunderstood. I'm using it simply as a analog chorus pedal that provides stereo presence to mono signals. So it comes off of the main mixer from an mono aux send, and then it returns to the mixer on a stereo return so that I don't suffer any phasing issues, just like the Oceans 12. Above it are two zoom pedals that are multi-effects, super cheap pedals that are great for my needs. These two pedals come out of the mixer on the rack that I use as a drum machine mixer for all of my drum machines. Above it are two more effects, but these are not guitar pedals. But these are the Dreadbox Hypnosis and the Erica Sense Acid Box 2. And beneath the zoom pedals are three Korg Mini Chaos pads that are not guitar pedals, but they are nice effects pedals. And then I also have three more zoom pedals, two B1-ons and another G1-on, that I use for aux sends from two more mixers. Two go out of one mixer and one from another mixer. So next to that one mixer that I just mentioned is the TC Helicon C1. And this is a pitch correction pedal that I do not use for my voice. I use it for drone synths that are wildly out of control, just for the heck of it. And it is connected to the patch bay. So if I need to route a microphone to it, I can do so through the patch bay. It's fairly easy to do. It's actually normaled so that my wired microphone is normal to it through the patch bay. If I need to break it so that I can use my wireless microphone with it, that's easy to do as well. But mainly it is used to send a signal into my Sonic Smith Converter Plus, which is a very, very neat pedal. I'm going to use my left hand to bang on the microphone, and we should see a signal right there. So right now I'm using this pedal to convert audio in to CV, and then I can then take that CV and convert it to MIDI. It's a long story, but this is a really, really, really great pedal. Next to it is a TC Helicon Voice Tone Create XT. I use this for my wireless microphone. This is a fantastic vocal pedal. It does a great job of just cleaning up the frequencies and getting the, your voice to just sound good, as if a sound person was back there and they knew exactly which frequencies to boost and attenuate. Great pedal. It's also a multi-effects pedal, so it has reverb, delay, and some distortion, and some, kind of neat, like CB talking type kind of stuff. So that pretty much covers the pedals on the main table. I have another effects unit, which is the Spice, but again, that's not a guitar pedal. So what I want to do is focus back here now, where I keep all of my sort of unused stuff. So above here are some synthesizers that I'm not really using right now. I mean, I use them, but just, not back here on the main table. And my pocket operators. So, I have a lot of wild stuff back here. So this is a Boss Line Selector LS2. It's semi-broken. My bass player gave this to me to try to fix. I took a stab at it, was unsuccessful, but I didn't break it any further than it's already broken. It's back to its original state that he gave it to me in. But what is interesting about this is what I learned is that this particular pedal, there is no room inside of this to spare whatsoever. Everything is crammed in there as tight as it can get. And that is kind of unexpected, because when you compare that to something like the Boss DS1 Distortion, when you open this pedal up on the inside, it's mostly empty. And it's not that it's, like you're getting a ripoff or anything. It's just that's just how simple that the circuit is. It's a super, super simple circuit. So here we go. This is actually the second analog guitar pedal that I ever purchased, the Boss DS1. And this is just something that I think that probably everybody should have. And underneath it here, while we're looking, I'm not going to get those out. I have 3 Boss BF2 flangers. I'm hoping to modify all of those and resell them. But, one thing at a time. One thing I've noticed is that people aren't really biting at modified BF2 pedals. So maybe I should just hang on to them instead. But, again, one thing at a time. But I should point out the first analog guitar pedal that I purchased, which is the Behringer Vintage Phaser. And I think this is the VP1. Yeah, VP1. And this is a clone of the ElectroHarmonix Small Stone. Really, really cool pedal. Again, I think that everybody should have some kind of a phaser pedal. These are really, really, really great for like string synthesizers and things like Rhodes and Wurlitzers. Okay, so this is my Pearl FG01 Flanger. This is kind of a rare pedal. It's an old pedal. The battery clip on the inside is broken. I'm going to try to fix it, but that's an easy fix. But taking the pedal apart and getting into everything, not so easy. Underneath it is this crazy cheap old beater distortion pedal that I bought. This is like the kind of pedal that you would find that would like fall off of a motorcycle on the highway. And I'm not sure if it really works right now, but it's going to be a project. I'm going to take it apart and clean it, see if I can fix it. And if anything, it's probably going to sound like the Boss DS1, which the Boss DS1 is kind of noisy, So that one, we'll see. Now these pedals back here are really cool. These are the Joyo amp modeling pedals. What they do is these are analog, but Joyo used some sort of IR technique, I think, to figure out how to get an analog version of these particular amplifiers that they're modeling after. Or they just looked at the schematics of the original amplifiers and tried to match them as best as they could. I have no idea how they do it, but people say that they sound like the real thing. I don't know. I'm not a guitar player. I have a guitar player. I'm going to have him find out for me. But let me think about this for a second. The AC tone, I believe that this is the Vox. Down here is the Joyo California. I'm trying to think which one is this one. That is the Mesa Boogie, I think, or something like that. And then the American, I believe this is a Fender. And then the British is a Marshall. So there you go, a Vox, a Fender, a Mesa Boogie, and a Marshall. And those are all analog. This is the Tech 21 Sans Amp Bass Driver DI. And I think that anybody who has a studio should have one of these pedals. This is just a great active DI pedal. Mainly for bass, but you can use it really for anything. You could use it for vocals if you had to in a pinch. Okay, now this is a weird pedal. This was a chance that I took. I've taken many chances on some of these pedals. This is one that didn't work out so well. It doesn't sound all that great. I love the way that it looks. It's a simple fuzz pedal, but you know what? I can do something with this. If I want to try to fix it up and do my own thing, I can do my own thing. I've got other, I mean, I can take this circuit out and then just use another fuzz circuit if I really want to. The construction of it's done very well. I love the art. I love the game. This is a Dark Souls reference and another reference, as you can tell. Back behind it is a new pedal to me. My guitar player actually gave me this pedal. You know what? I forget what this is and I can't see it, but it is the Acoustic DI from Behringer. And this pedal actually, I kid you not, this pedal was played at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee. And that's exactly why my guitar player got this, was because he was playing acoustic guitar and he needed something to drive his signal. So next is the BBE Sonic Stomp. And this is Unicorn Fairy Dust. This really is a good pedal. It's called a Sonic Maximizer. Basically what it does is it just boosts and attenuates the right signals, and how it does it, I don't know. It's really tailored for guitar, but these things are used for all kinds of stuff, for drums, bass, vocals, everything. And then back here is a Joyo Classic Flanger. It's just a flanger, nothing special. I'm not really sure if it's analog or digital. I think it's analog, but don't quote me on that one. It's okay. It's just a cheap flanger. And then down here is a really cool pedal. This is the BBE 2 timer. This is a dual delay, but what it basically does is it allows you to select 2 different delay times and then switch between the 2 of them. You don't really stack them together, but that's still very super handy for guitar players. And I picked this one up for super cheap. The knob back here, if I can point to it, this one is kind of broken, and I want to see if I can take it apart and weld that back together somehow. It's hard to explain, but that potentiometer is not like these potentiometers are not really mounted like your typical ones, which is very interesting. Okay, so this is a Dan Electro Chili Dog. These are all named after various junk foods and deli foods, which is pretty cool. But this is an octave pedal. It has 2 octaves, octave 1 and octave 2. I think they're octave ups. I'm pretty sure they are. I can't remember anymore. Actually, one of them may be down and one may be up. It's a cool pedal. I bought this one. It was broken. The DC jack was cracked. I replaced it with another one. It's a very hard to find DC jack, but I got it done. And the thought was I was going to do that, fix it and sell it and flip it, but I'm going to hang on to it for a little bit longer because I kind of like it. And then down here is a Fab Metal, which is just a really, high gain distortion pedal, analog. It's really noisy unless you're really getting the proper impedance matching type kind of thing going on. This is the TC Electronic Tailspin, which is is that a vibrato? Yeah, so that modulates the pitch. And it's the only actual just straight vibrato pedal I have. It's also the only TC electronic pedal in this format that I have. I really do like this format a lot, by the way. I'm going to take it out here because it has top mounting jacks, which makes it really good for synthesizers, I think. I think synthesizers, for the most part, benefit more from the top mounting jacks because, you know, your synthesizers are like this way and all your jacks are coming in off the top, as opposed to, say, something like this pedal, which has side mounting jacks. So when you're trying to get these in with your pedals, you know what I'm talking about. The cables that are coming into these take up a whole lot of real estate space on the table. But these are just kind of big and kind of heavy. It's my only criticism of them, is simply that. Otherwise, you know, the potentiometers and these knobs are huge and awesome, and the potentiometers just feel really tight but yet really smooth at the same time. Okay, here's a couple cheapy pedals. This is a Tom's Line bass limiter, which I would say this will get you out of a spot if you need this in a live situation. It's great to take it with you, and if you need it for whatever reason in a live situation, like, for example, I think it's pretty good with the synthesizer like the, the Korg Volca bass here, which when you get this resonance and this peak cutoff kind of going, like, it can get really, really squelchy. So something like this limiter will help kind of suppress those really, really harsh peaks when it gets, you know, because it's not just the frequency, it's also the volume that it's coming out at. But otherwise, you know, this is kind of a noisy pedal. Like, if you're actually wanting to record this stuff in your studio, there are better alternatives. And this is the newer Noise Gate. Same kind of situation. The quality on this one I think is a little bit better than the Tom's Line bass limiter. Again, these are just how, this is just how, like, how my mileage rolls, so to speak. Everything in these pedals depends upon your impedance matching, and maybe I'll talk about that a little more as we go, but, you know, your mileage and your meters will vary. Okay, but this is a really, really decent little noise gate. Again, it's great for a live situation where you don't want to take like a more expensive pedal. And back here is a Joyo Vintage Overdrive, which is a Ibanez Tube Screamer clone. This is a very, very, very common thing to clone, is a tube screamer. So this is the Joyo's version of that. So this is, you know, it's decent. It's very, very cheap. Joyo actually makes really, really good sounding stuff. And then I've got these little guys right here I like a lot. These are the Hotone, I believe. Super, super tiny little pedals. And they got this nice little knob on the top. So 3 knobs and a button, each one of them. This is the phase, and as you can see here, it's got my name on it. And this is just a phase shifter, like the Behringer vintage phase shifter that I showed you before. And then next to it is a reverb pedal that has a pretty decent little shimmer on it. I mean, it's nowhere near as good as the Strymon shimmer or Valhalla shimmer, but, you know, again, if you want to take something like this live, it's a great little alternative to something more expensive. And then this is a Lush flanger, which is again, it's a pretty decent flanger. It can get very, very extreme. It's not subtle by any means. So that's pretty important for people. Like, some people want a very, very subtle flanger. And by the way, these flangers back here are kind of on the extreme side, I would say. They're kind of subtle, kind of extreme. This one, when it gets extreme, it gets very, very extreme. And then here are my Behringer Boss clone pedals, and they clone more than just Boss, but you can look this up. There's a guide out there that talks about what each one of these pedals clones. I can't keep all of that information memorized in my head, but I've got the noise reducer. This vintage delay is actually really nice. It's an analog delay. Now, the thing about analog delay is that for the most part, you're going to suffer a consequence of short delay times. You're not going to be able to get long delay times unless somebody is doing something really, really, really cool and innovative out there. And that usually means it's going to be an expensive boutique pedal. Next to it is the Slow Motion. This is really cool. This is a clone of the Slow Gear by Boss, and which is a very expensive pedal. And this is not a very cheap pedal either by itself. And this is just capable of doing like really cool swelling type kind of stuff. But, you know, as a synthesizer player, you don't need a pedal like this. This really is a guitar pedal, or, you know, any kind of string or like something that you're picking up with with the piezo pickup or something like that, or even a microphone, you might be able to use this, but line in from synthesizers, there's just no really a need for a pedal like this, to tell you the truth. I want to experiment more with some drum machines and see how it impacts the sound, but probably not so much. We'll see though. The next to this is a bass limiter enhancer. I think it is definitely better than the Tom's line, to tell you the truth. It's less, how do I say this? It just has a stronger signal that's coming out. This one, you get pretty weak signal, so you need to put a boost on the other side of it. So here is the Vintage Tube Overdrive by Behringer. It is the same thing as the Joyo offering. It's a tube screamer clone. Then over here is a compressor sustainer. It's probably a Boss. Next to it is a bass overdrive, same thing. Then we've got the heavy metal, the ultra metal, the compressor limiter, and the super fuzz. I'll tell you right off the bat, my guitar player does not like this pedal at all. But you know what? Maybe it's not very good for guitar players, but it's probably okay for synth jammers, especially when you run a drum machine through it. So, all right, that takes care of those pedals. Now, a little dark back here. So this is a very special pedal. This is the Full Tone Choral Flange. And I was able to pick this up recently, and I think the price on these is jumping up quickly. So this one's really beat up, but the rubber feet on the back of it are missing. But that's okay. It works, and this is a very, very, very subtle flanger. It's one thing I like about it. It also has stereo output, and it's fully analog. And then back here is a Full Tone GT500 that I picked up on the cheap. It's pretty beat up too, but it is a distortion on this side and boost on the left side. So what that means is that this side is going to give you a lot of high gain into the territory of distortion, and then this side is going to like take that and boost it. But it really depends upon which signal that you're flowing into which. So the signal flow, are you taking the right into the left or the left into the right? And this switch allows you to switch between the two. So if you have an overdrive into a distortion, then you're just going to get even more distortion. But if you take the distortion in the overdrive, then you're just going to take whatever's coming out of the distortion and just make that louder. It's a pretty subtle difference between the two. And it's something that guitar players do a lot. This is one of my favorite flangers, and my guitar player actually loved this pedal to death. He definitely loves that pedal, by the way. But this is the, which one's this one? Yeah, the Veltin FL10. Now, I used to think that this was a clone of the Boss high band flanger, but my guitar player told me no, this is it's a different pedal that this one clones. This is fully analog. It is tiny. I don't know how they did it. It definitely is SMD components on the inside, but this thing just sounds amazing. And it goes from subtle to super extreme. This one is a very interesting pedal. This is the Mythos Au Gold. It's a fuzz overdrive. It's very, 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 very subtle. So, I have no business with a pedal like this, but tell you the truth, I don't know. Just another color, so to speak. And I just think it's gorgeous. Let me set this down here so I can get to the Nobels ODR. And this is of course, a newer one because it's a mini. That means that it's all SMD components on the inside. Pretty much anytime you see a tiny pedal like this, it's going to be SMD components. And that shouldn't be a problem for you. But if it is a problem, just avoid these mini pedals because I guarantee you they're going to be SMD components on the inside. But this is a famous, what's called a Nashville overdrive pedal, which just means that Nashville session players kind of use it for overdrive. And there are other, Nashville overdrive pedals. This is just one of 5 or 6 that everybody talks about. And this is a Mosky Silver Horsey, which is a Klon Centaur clone. If you know anything about the Klon Centaur, I paid, I think, $20 for this thing. So the Klon Centaurs go for $5,000. This is a $20 version of that. How does it sound? It sounds really, really good. It has problems. The DC jack is a little kind of, it's a bit how you doing, as Dave says. When you plug it in, you basically want to make sure that you plug in the jack first and then turn the power on so that you don't short the power. I can go in there and maybe fix that, but, that's probably the best alternative, is just to make sure that you don't plug in a live DC jack into it. Behind it, this is neat. This is a an Alexander Neo series. I got this with one of my Alexander pedals. I can't remember which one. I've got it all written down somewhere though. But this is just an auxiliary expression type kind of switch for their pedals that does different things. And I think it actually can send MIDI, but if it does, it's a specialized thing that, you know, needs a pedal that knows what to do with that. Okay, next is the Earthquaker device Data Corruptor. This pedal is really awesome. This is a phase-locked loop pedal that takes the incoming signal and then creates a square wave out of it, and then divides that and provides a sub-octave, and then you can have harmonies based on different intervals and then mix in a different way. And then it also has this glide feature, which allows the note to like ramp way up and then back down. Really, really, really nice. Now behind it is, this is a Boonar from, Donner Prince. Yeah, I keep wanting to say Prince Donner. It's Donner Prince Boonar. This is a Benson Echo Rec emulator. Totally digital, but what I love about this is that you select the different heads by these buttons. And when you select them, there's no drop out of sound, which I'll get to in a second. I think it's pretty important when you're jamming, when you're a guitar player, changing effects and the sound dropping out may be okay, maybe acceptable, you know. As a guitar player, I could talk about this now, you know. Like this is the Chicago Stompworks Legitimate Beef. It's a Red Llama clone from Way Huge, I think. It's basically a boost with a little bit of an overdrive, I think. But the important thing about guitar pedals and guitar players is that, you know, think about it. This is going to be on the ground. And, you know, you're not going to be able to, like, you're not going to want to reach down all the time and change the settings on the knobs. So if that's the case, right, then you just want to set it and leave it alone type kind of thing, and then engage it back and forth with the stomp switch or the pedal itself. Then, you know, then it's okay to have the sound drop out when you change programs. But when you're a synth jammer like me and possibly yourself, yeah, well, that's the whole kind of point, is that we want to be able to morph between different programs and not have the sound drop out. Okay, this is Animals Pedal Vintage Van Driving is very fun. It's just a cute overdrive. It sounds great. And I mean, come on, let's face it. Who wouldn't want a bear driving a van? Look how happy that bear is. And he's obviously driving safely. So, you know, it's good stuff. Okay, moving on. This is my only MXR pedal. This is the Custom Badass 78 Distortion. What I liken this to is it's like a Boss DS1, but it has less noise. What that means is that you can crank up the gain even more, and then when there's no signal going through it, you don't hear that shh hissing noise. And that's why you normally need something like a noise gate with these pedals, is when you stop playing. Now, as a hardware jammer, synth hardware jammer, you definitely have moments where, you know, a synthesizer is going to stop, MIDI's not going to be sent to it, whatever. You might be able to mute it on your mixer, but now you got to remember to unmute and so forth. It's really nice to have, like, you know, a distortion pedal that doesn't have a lot of noise for us synth jammers. This is a pedal that I made from a kit, and let me think about this for a second. This enclosure was pre-drilled, but I definitely painted it myself. This is an Octave Fuzz pedal that is based off of the Tycho Brahe Octavia. It has a transformer inside which handles the octave switching. And it's really, 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 it's a pretty good pedal. I hope to make more of these in the future. While we're on it, here's another one that I made. This one is based off of the Ross compressor. It uses a transconductance operational amplifier, the real deal, a single one, a CA3040, 3060, whatever it is, 3080, whatever. And it's the hard to find one that's kind of expensive. But this is my white Peepo Happy pedal. I drilled all the holes out of this myself. I basically just purchased the PCB, sourced the rest of it, and built it myself. Same thing with this pedal. This is the Echo Blue, and both of these are Fuzz Dog kits. Again, I just purchased the PCBs from someone off of Reverb and sourced all the parts myself, drilled the holes in my own enclosures, and painted all this myself. This is an interesting Reverb no, excuse me, not reverb, an interesting delay that uses the PT2399. It's okay. This is a KLine Pure Sky, and this is a Timmy clone, the Timmy Overdrive, which is a very expensive pedal. People say this sounds pretty good, you know. My guitar player listened to it. He's like, you know, whatever. And one more, KLine. This is the Englishman. It's a distortion pedal. I'm not exactly sure what this is trying to emulate. Maybe a Marshall. I'm not exactly sure, because if it does, it's just the distortion channel of a Marshall, but it's a distortion pedal. And I like it. What I was wanting to do, what I may do, is sand off all of the paint all on this, and then paint Iron Maiden's The Trooper on it somehow. That would be a real Englishman, in my opinion. And that'd be a really cool looking lawsuit pedal. Okay, speaking of lawsuit pedals, I'm pretty sure that Idiot Box Effects has the rights for this one, but this is the Dungeon Master, and that is the old Atari 2600 adventure video game that this is based on. This is just a really cool high gain distortion pedal that has a low and high attenuation. I'm not exactly sure what frequencies those hit, and I'm not really sure what this pedal does with the mid frequencies. We'll find all of that out later. Now, this next one is the way huge Atreides weirding module, and this is an Octave Fuzz with an LFO that will modulate filter, I believe. So this is really, really cool. I like this pedal a lot. It is kind of similar to the Data Corruptor here, and it's similar to another pedal that I'll get to towards the end, but they're different. But I will say, you know, if you just want that kind of sound and you don't want to get all three, then pick one. This is a KLine 10-band EQ. This is just, these EQ pedals like this are just great to have anytime you need to fix a problem. And then this is a passive direct box, an EWI. Doesn't matter what kind you get. If you have a studio, you definitely want to get some kind of a passive direct box. These things are great for bass players and great for singers. Dave Ratt hooked in a microphone backwards through this and hooked it directly into an amplifier. And I'm pretty sure the amplifier wasn't turned on. Maybe it was, but he was able to correct the impedance that microphones have with guitar amplifiers and get a clear signal through it. Very, very, very cool. Okay, let me put these back up because I'm going to need the room again. I have way too many pedals. Okay, second tier. Oh my goodness gracious, look at this. This is the Stereo Electric Mistress. Now, this is not the awesome, you know, old one by any stretch, but it's pretty cool. I have this in another pedal. We'll get to that in a second. This allows you to have chorus and flanger at the same time. It's really, really nice. And you can use the rate, which is an LFO, when the flanger is past noon. It actually engages the LFO. But when it's before noon, you actually have to engage it yourself, which is really, really nice. Now, for a guitar player, however, I don't know, but you do have the expression, I think, on the... No, this is stereo. So, yep, there you have it. It's got a main out for the mono and the stereo out. That's a pedal that really could use an expression pedal input, however, for sweeping the filter, the matrix, or whatever you want to call it. This is a really cool dual overdrive called the Hot Wax. On one side is the Crayon on the right side, and on the left side is the Hot Tubes. And it goes from the right into the left. There's no switching of order. But these are both unique ElectroHarmonix overdrives that are really not trying to recreate any of the other sort of classic horsemen that are out there. I don't know. But from what I understand, these are very unique overdrives. And instead of getting individually, why not just get them all in one package? Sometimes it doesn't work out so well, but sometimes it does. Okay, this is a pedal that I really don't need, but I will be using this for experiments in the future. This literally is 44 watts of power going into an amplifier that is passive, I guess. So just a speaker, not an amplifier. So this is the amplifier. This is a power amp. It's not a preamp, it's an actual power amp that's pushing high current and driving a speaker. So I've also got let me get this guy out of the way first. The lighter weight versions, the 22 caliber and the 5 millimeter. So the 22 caliber is 22 watts and this one is 5 watts. So the lower wattage is great for smaller rooms if you're playing live in a small room. So these pedals are definitely for playing live. They're really not for hardware jamming. I have them for my own edification going forward into the future when I start looking into building amplifiers in a few years from now. Okay, this is the ElectroHarmonix RTG random tone generator. This pedal is awesome. I actually have a battery placed in this pedal so that I can use it at any time. It just has an output, no input. And what this does, it just generates random sort of square wave notes. And the thing about this, I talked about this before, but when you have a guitar pedal like this and the battery's in it, as long, in this particular case, it's the output, but as long as you don't have a mono plug connected into the jack, it's not engaging the battery, and the battery is not being drained. So it's very, very important. So the other important thing to understand is that when you see the red light come on, that's not an on-off switch. That's just an indicator that the effect is being engaged or you have true bypass. The power is always on. If there's power connected into it, the pedal is on. If there's a battery into it and there's an input jack that's a TS jack going into it, in this case the output jack, it's on and the battery's being drained. Very important thing that I just wanted to point out. Back here is the ElectroHarmonix Knockout. And this is just an EQ pedal. It's really a more simplified version of this KLine 12 band. It just essentially has two bands, a high and a low, but it has a mix. So you can mix in the original signal as much as you want, 50-50 blend, and just kind of go from there 100% down to 0. And, you know, it's just a cool looking pedal too. So let's talk about that for a second. This is one of the things I love about guitar pedals, is they are art. That is almost like an advertisement, but I still love it. It's got this sort of classic early 20th century look about it. Moving on, this is the, no it's not. This is the ElectroHarmonix Small Stone, and this is a special print. I just think this looks great. Basically, this just has a rate and a color, which I believe is sort of a filter. This is a great pedal for string synthesizers. It's a phaser. It is, basically, this is the pedal that this pedal is a clone of. Much nicer looking too. So I got this one first, and when I started getting into this, I was like, you know, I really want this one. And this is actually one of the first, you know, kind of nice pedals that I purchased, to tell you the truth. This is the Origin Effects Cali 6 Stacked Edition compressor. It's 2 compressors with the ability to blend one, to send one into the next. And this is a heavy, heavy duty compressor. I don't know what to say. I really like it a lot. It takes anywhere from 9 to 18 volts. It sounds much better at 18 volts because you get so much more headroom to compress. This is a wonderful pedal. I have no business having it, but there it is. I paid a really good price for it too, so that's kind of part of it. This is the Demo-Dash Effects T120 Videotape Echo, and this basically tries to emulate the sound of a degraded VHS tape, and it is really, really, really nice. Now, this is a pedal that any studio should hope to have one day, and this is the JHS Pedals Colorbox V2. This is basically a Neve console strip in a box, and it runs on 9 volts. It's completely analog. It has an input transformer and an output transformer. And this thing is the most massive EQ shaping box around. Again, it's a very, very similar pedal to this one and the Knockout that we saw earlier. But this, even though it doesn't have 10 bands of EQ, is able to push the frequency so much better and cleaner than the KLine. It's a great pedal. Very expensive though. Now, this is the ElectroHarmonix Bad Stone. It's very, 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 very similar to the Small Stone. The main difference, though, being that you have a switch that allows you to control the rate of the sweeping or have it use its own internal LFO to control the rate of the sweeping. This is the ElectroHarmonix Flatiron Fuzz. It's ElectroHarmonix take on the Proco Rat. And it's just a really gnarly high gain distortion pedal. Beneath it is the ElectroHarmonix East River Drive. This is another tube screamer, which is a low gain overdrive. And next is a JHS modded ElectroHarmonix Russian Big Muff. I love the Russian Big Muffs. This is modded to do a lot of different stuff, but they change the levels of gain. They kind of change how the mids are activated or not activated. The frequencies is what I'm trying to say. Which ones, I'm not really sure, but usually when it comes to guitars, it's the mids. So this is the regular ElectroHarmonix Russian Big Muff unmodified. And the Big Muffs are just really, really, really iconic. People call them fuzzes, but they're really sustained distortion pedals. We're not going to go into semantics, though. They have a really unique sound, which is great. And this is a JHS modded ElectroHarmonix Soul Food. And the Soul Food is like the Mosky Silver Horse. It is a Klon Centaur clone. And much, much cheaper version. It's, I would say, definitely better than the Mosky Silver Horse. You can get one for about $60. These modded versions, however, don't go for that. And there's a good chance that these are going to be highly collectible one day. They already kind of are. And this is the unmodified ElectroHarmonix Soul Food. Again, it's just a Klon clone. What's special about these pedals is they take 9 volts, but they have an internal charge pump, which gets the voltage not just up to 18 inside, but 27 volts of headroom. Yeah, these are really awesome pedals. Okay, so next up are the pedals that I have out here on what I call my micro jam station. I just want to first start with this mixer. So this first mixer allows me to plug in any kind of synthesizers that I want to set out here on the table. The output of this mixer is mono. So everything going into here is going to be mono. But the output goes into this G1 Exxon, which has a nice little expression pedal that I can use. Mono in, stereo out, down to this mixer. And other stereo inputs coming into it as well. But then out of this mixer, stereo going into my Boss Giga Delay, which is a really, really cool, iconic delay pedal. I love this pedal to death. What I want to do is I want to insert these two into the mix somehow next. These are the Digitech Nautila and the Digitech Polara. The Nautila is a digital stereo chorus and flanger. I would use it as the chorus more than the flanger, that's for sure. I love flangers, but chorus is a much more practical effect. And the Digitech Polara uses lexicon reverbs. So, I mean, these are just really cool pedals that I just want to use all the time, and I think this would be a good place for it. I'm probably going to have to make some more cables, though, to get it working. No problem with the power, however. But that's just something in the future. And down here on the Micro Jam station, I have something that I can actually play for you right now. I think this will be loud enough. So here's a patch using the harpsichord. This is a Yamaha DX7 clone called the Voca FM. So that's my clean sound, ha 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 ha. So this pedal is called 4 Parts or Repair, and it's Midphi Electronics. This is one of my new additions. And this is an audio degrader. So check this out. We're going to start by degrading the pitch, and then we're going to degrade, we're going to add a lot of cutouts. Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. We're actually going to take away, not add stuff. Just make sure that you can hear that. Oh, isn't that gloriously awful? Yeah, this is a really, really, really cool pedal. And we're going to take a look at the drawers. So, I hope you're keeping count, because I have not been keeping count. So, here is the JHS Bonsai, and this is a 9-way tube screamer. This is 9 individual tube screamer circuits in one pedal. You can't stack them. You can only use one at a time, but you know, that would be kind of crazy if you could do that. It'd probably take 18 volts at the very least. This is the JHS Twin 12. It is a Silvertone 1484 clone, which is an amplifier from the 50s or something, or 40s, I don't know. It's an old amplifier, and this pedal seeks to replicate the sounds of that amplifier. So the idea with these pedals that do that, and these are analog by the way, is that you may have something like a Fender amp, like a clean amp, and then this would dirty it up in a way that these old amplifiers used to. The next is the JHS Morning Glory. And I believe this is a blues breaker clone, which is a old Marshall pedal, which are kind of expensive. And this is just a great sounding overdrive. I think it has the capability of going into high gain as well with the switch. Okay, now we move on to some Earthquaker Devices pedals. This is the Afterneath, and this is the version 3. If you get this, I highly recommend you get the version 3, because this expression input, you can use like a CV sequencer, like the Korg SQ1, and drive into this expression input and actually use this as a little synthesizer. But it's a reverb pedal that does a really cool shimmer, and one of the aspects of shimmer is to give you like an octave up on your original signal, and then to like reverberate the heck out of that. So this actually has an oscillator, I think, that provides that upper shimmer signal, and you can actually change the pitch of it and drive it with a CV signal. Very cool. Now, if you're a guitar player, you can use your expression pedal to just glide things around. This is the C Machine by Earthquaker Devices. This is a chorus pedal, and it is a really extremely wild chorus pedal. It's not subtle at all, so you want to use it when you want to get like really kind of ocean deep kind of crazy watery sounds. This is another one of my first pedals that I got, the ElectroHarmonix Mel9. I just think this is a wonderful pedal. It's a hard pedal to use. You have to dial it in just right, but when you get it just right, it can really get those old Mellotron sounds. It really can. I mean, it's no complete substitute for the real thing, but man, the real thing is expensive and breaks down all the time. And the actual new ones that they're making are great, but they're digital, which I don't mind that they're digital, but they're expensive. Okay, this is the Earthquaker Devices Avalanche Run, the Yeti edition. This is a reverb and delay pedal, and it's stereo. It's kind of like the Dispatch Master, but instead of mono, it's stereo. And it's from what I understand, it's a little bit more difficult for a guitar player to dial in. I got this because I thought it would be better for a synthesizer hardware jamming person to use than the Dispatch Master, and I think I was correct on that one. I think the beauty of the Dispatch Master, what all the guitar players love about it so much, is that it's just so easy to dial in. And then when they went to try the Avalanche Run, they found that it had the sounds, but they had to work a lot harder to get those sounds. Back to JHS pedals. This is the Mufaleta. This is a 6-way Big Muff. So this handles all of the major Big Muff variants in one pedal. It's like the Bonsai, analog, all of these circuits inside of it. And you can switch them, but you can't stack them, which is okay. This is the JHS Cheese Ball. It is a clone of the Love Tone Big Cheese, which is like a $700 to $1,000 pedal. This is a much cheaper version of that, and it's wonderful. This is the Like My Pedals Duck Hunt, and is a dual overdrive pedal. The right side is a blues breaker, and the left side is like a Marshall Plexi. So it's pretty cool. It's like you have a Marshall distortion pedal or overdrive going into your Marshall amp. Next is the Minotone King of the Britons. This is another Marshall Plexi pedal. And this is a really, really nice pedal. On the inside is point-to-point wiring, but I won't show you that yet. Now, we'll say this, the LED went out. It worked when it got to me. This pedal came from Russia to me, and the LED worked, but the LED no longer works. I'm going to try to replace it. Replacing an LED is actually very, very easy. Getting to that LED, however, may be very, very difficult, and I haven't really assessed how bad that's going to be yet. This is the LAN Devices HP2. Wow. I'm glad I got this pedal before the price went out of the roof. It was pretty expensive when I got it. This is the cleanest distortion pedal I think I've ever heard in my life. It's absolutely fantastic. I don't want to ever get rid of it. This is a harmonic percolator, which means that it basically distorts and works on the even harmonics, which are particularly brittle, but it is just bizarrely clean sounding, even though it shouldn't be. Okay, this is the Black Arts Toneworks Black Sheep, and this is another crazy high gain distortion. The art on this is just absolutely fantastic. All right, I'm going to try to leave these in. This is the Wilson Effects Uber Haze. This is a Unifibe clone, and it is just absolutely awesome. It handles vibe and chorus, either or. Next to it is, oh my goodness gracious, one of my favorite pedals. This is the Nocturne Mystery Brain, and this is a Space Echo clone of sorts. Kind of, sort of, not really. What it has a wonderful preamp, kind of like the original Space Echoes, and that's using the PT2399 digital delay chip, but oh my goodness gracious, it sounds so amazingly and authentically analog. And this Abbey switch is interesting. It's a boost, but it boosts the signal by way of switching the impedance. Very, very interesting. And then down here is the Wilson Effects Stone Grasshopper, and this is a fuzz into overdrive with a boost. And you can sort of switch a few things out with these other jacks. Pretty cool. I really like these Wilson Effects pedals. And then finally in this drawer is a Malaise Forever Tone Station, the dual Tone Station overdrive. It's basically two of the same overdrives that they make into one box. One uses SMD components and the other uses only through-hole. So they use this pedal as a model to pass out to people and have them try to figure out which side was SMD and which side was through-hole. Pretty nifty. Okay, moving on to the next drawer. Here I have my Earthquaker Devices Life-O clone Life pedal. I forget the name, Kojak, the builder, Czech Republic, I believe. This is an interesting Octave Fuzz pedal. It does a pretty decent job of replicating the Earthquaker Devices, but of course, you know, at a fraction of the price, it's not quite the same thing. And then this is my Brown Amplification Protein, the hot pink version. And this is a, I believe that the right side is the green side, so that would be like a Nashville overdrive, like the Nobles ODR. And the left side is the blue side, which is like the Boss Blues Driver. And this is a really cool dual overdrive pedal. It does not allow you to switch the order. You basically can just take the blue, the green into the blue, or select them individually. You could use that for all kinds of tone shaping as a boost, etc. Getting into the Alexander pedals, this is the Syntax Error Castlevania version. What a horrible night to have a curse. This is like a 8-bit bit crushing type kind of pedal with modulation, sort of like has a frequency and a ring modulator. It's really cool. And then next is the Alexander Pedals Defender. This is a very interesting pedal. It's distortion with a bit of modulation with a filter and pitch shifting. So it handles overdrive, distortion, and fuzz which, to tell you the truth, digital fuzz never really works out. But you can just think of it as different levels of overdrive, different levels of gain, going from light gain to super heavy gain. And of course, it's just really, really cool because it replicates the old Williams style pedals. The old Williams style video games. Next up is the Pink Marshmallow. And this is a very, very cool octave pitch shifting, crazy, wild pedal that does like a lot of just dreaminess and gets really, really wacky into the atmosphere. And then my final Alexander Pedals is the F13 Flanger. And this is a purely digital flanger. And all of these pedals kind of have the same features where you're able to select between like 6 different modes or 8 different modes, 4 different modes, with a button here in the middle, which does different kinds of modulations to whatever kind of effect that you're already working with. So this basically changes different modes based upon how the input signal is responding, which makes it very, very good for guitars. But you can also utilize something like this with synthesizers by turning the volume down coming out of your synthesizer. Kind of the opposite of what you think with gain staging. Okay, moving on. This is a pedal I paid too much for, but I'm not going to get rid of it. This is the Love Pedal Joker Boost. From what I've heard, this takes up to 18 volts. So that's nice. This is like a 20 dB boost pedal. It's a very, very typical amount of boost or amount of gain for a boost pedal like this. Next is the Xenocoder Thing Tremolo, which is 1 of 10. I believe this one is number 3. And this is just a really, really cool, very rare tremolo. Next are my Idiot Box Effects pedals. More of them. This is the Cool Bass Buzz Bass Fuzz. This is a fuzz that is dedicated to the bass pedal and allows you to shape the low, mid, high, and it's just a really, really gnarly sounding bass fuzz. The next is a very special Klon Centaur clone. This is the Hand-Ton, and it's half hand solo, half tauntaun. And what can I say? It's a Centaur clone. It sounds really good, but as any kind of pedal like that should, because it basically has 27 volts of headroom to work with. Next is the Blower Box from Idiot Box Effects. And this is the old, not the oldest of the oldest version of this pedal, but one of the old ones. And this actually has a real LM308 chip inside of it. But this is a really, really cool pedal. It kind of sounds like your amp speaker has been sort of subtly blown out, and it kind of flutters and flumbles, which is great for bass. Next is the Idiot Box Effects Super Bassomatic 76, and that reminds me of the old Saturday Night Live skit. And this is a frequency filter pedal that sort of tracks where you're at. You can kind of set like where the range is and so forth, and how much that you want it to do. And I guess like a really kind of nice parked filter wah effect sound. And then finally is the Ron Swanson Super Fuzz. And this is a Super Fuzz clone. It's a really, really, really nice pedal. It kind of favors the high end frequency, and I really think it sounds great with the TB303 clones because they can tend to be kind of mid and low range focused. And this really brings out the highs. Next is the Zvex Fuzz Factory. I will say this, everybody should have this pedal. This pedal is just absolutely ridiculous. It is capable of going into wild self-oscillation. It has a noise gate. It is absolutely fantastic. You can pick up old beat-up ones for about $120 on Reverb. If you want to get a really good fuzz pedal and you don't know what to get, you want to spend a little bit of money on it, get a Fuzz Factory. I will say this, it's not subtle. It's very, very extreme. So if that's not what you're looking for, look elsewhere. This is the Old Blood Noise Endeavors Expression pedal. So it's just a slider which provides CV expression, which is nice to have. I'm going to use this for more desktop. It doesn't have the best travel in the world. It doesn't feel, you can kind of hear it actually, but it's okay. I didn't pay too much for it. It's not very expensive. It is pretty nice though. This is the Digitech Dirty Robot. It's kind of hard to explain exactly what this pedal is. It's sort of a synthesizer kind of pedal that turns your guitar into a synthesizer tone. It has a couple different modes about it, and you can get a couple different things. It's almost like a vocal formant filter at the same time. It kind of, you can get some really talky kind of sounds out of this. And then this is the Digitech Freakout. This is a very interesting pedal to work with. It will just bark out like oscillated tones and, you know, like in different intervals based upon what frequency that you send into it. So it does a really good job of sounding like feedback, especially if you're using a guitar. I've been experimenting with different synthesizers. I love to use my pocket operator robot with this thing. Next is my only Daredevil Pedals pedal. This is the Black Belt, the British Black Belt. And it's kind of a silly pedal. This pedal tries to emulate a little speaker that you would plug your guitar into and use as practice. And what people would do in the 80s is they would take this into the studio and put a mic up to it and get like a very, very special sound out of it that was pretty good. Kind of a high whiny pitched sound. But I really just love the artwork and the design on this pedal. Okay, this is a very, very interesting pedal. This is the Bob Weir Real Deal pedal. What's great about this is this works great with microphones and acoustic amps, piezo pickups, and it's capable of handling both, like on a guitar, like the piezo pickup and the any kind of bridge pickups that you have at the same time. So you can send two signals in from your acoustic guitar and handle any kind of phase issues. These are kind of expensive. I got this for super cheap though. You know, I'm definitely not an acoustic guitar player, but the price was right, and I just like to be able to have these things in my studio in case I need them. Okay, moving on to the next drawer. We'll start with the Keeley Bubbletron. This is a sort of Frank Zappa inspired pedal. It's sort of a Mutron inspired pedal because Frank Zappa used a lot of Mutrons for filter, phaser, and flangers. And this has all three in one. You can't use all three at the same time, of course. It's selectable one at a time. And it does a fairly decent job of each one of them, and it's just a really, really great design. It has a lot of different modes to it. Okay, these are my KLine bred pedals. Now, these are very interesting. This is the Katzen Koenig. It is sort of a variant of the Proco Rat. Now, what's important about these pedals is that you notice the voltage requirements on it. In this particular case, hopefully you can see that there. Not so much that it's center negative, we all know that, but this takes anywhere from 9 to 18 volts. So if you can supply 18 volts to this, it's going to sound a whole lot better. It's going to have more headroom. It's going to be able to perform its job much, 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 much better. So this is the KLine bred Talisman. It's another one that takes, I think all of these take up to 18 volts, by the way, that you're about to see. This is a plate reverb pedal, and it sounds absolutely gorgeous. Next up is the Topanga. And this is a spring reverb emulation. This is digital as well. The Talisman is digital. This one is digital, but the Katzen Koenig is analog. And this one emulates a old Fender amp spring reverb. Where you'd actually find like a real spring reverb inside of the amp. And it sounds absolutely gorgeous too. Next is the Add an Echo. And yeah, another one that takes up to 18 volts. This one emulates the old Telray oil can echo devices from, I believe, the 1950s. And Telray went on to become Morley? Yeah, Morley. And this thing sounds absolutely fantastic. My guitar player loves this pedal very, very much. He checked it out and just didn't want to give it back. Next up is a flanger. This is the 0-point flanger. This is very interesting. It just has two buttons, one to engage the effect or not, and then when you engage it, you can actually modulate it with this switch, and it pretty much just has one rate, but it's a very, very slow rate that's very, very usable. And what's interesting, it has two modes. If you hold this down when you power it up, you can change the mode from positive to negative, so you get true negative through zero flanging. Next up is the KLine Echo Rec. This is a Benson Echo Rec emulator, just like the Donner Prince Boonar that I showed you before. But this one, instead of having the 4 buttons to change the 4 different heads, it has a knob which goes through 16 different modes. And the problem with this pedal is that when you go through these different modes, the audio, the delay cuts out noticeably. But I just absolutely love this pedal. It is gorgeous. It sounds great. As long as you don't mind staying in one mode, no problem. And then finally from KLine, we have the Bell Epoch, which is an Maestro EP1 tape echo emulator. And what can I say? This thing is amazing. There is a deluxe version of this. There's also just preamp variants of this, which is just a preamp and a pedal. And I just have the regular one. This sounds absolutely gorgeous. I love this pedal. Okay, so for reference, Dave Gilmore used a Benson Echo Rec. Jimmy Page used the Maestro Echoplex. 2 more full-tone pedals. This is the 69 Mark II. This is a transistor fuzz, and I believe this uses PNP transistors. It is a weird pedal. I actually keep a battery in this one because it is wired center positive, and it only takes 9 volts. So it doesn't really play very well with other power supplies that you daisy chain with your other pedals that are center negative. This is another variant. This is the 70. It uses the BC108C transistor. I believe that's an NPN. Don't quote me. It could be PNP. But this one is takes 9 to 18 volts, and it's center negative. However, my guitar player prefers the 69 over the 70, but we only powered it with 9 volts. So perhaps powering the 70 with 18, it will sound better. This is the KLine Corporation Hawaiian Pizza. It's a high-gain distortion pedal. It sounds really, really gnarly. I guess maybe it might be kind of like a Big Muff, but it really is its own beast. And this is just a wonderful pedal. It looks great. And I love the art on it, and I love the color. Moving on, this is my only solid gold effects pedal. This is the Oblivion Quad Flanger. This may be the only flanger that anybody really ever needs. This thing is just capable of doing all the different modes of flanging, and it just has so many features. I've gotten into it a bit. To say that it goes into the extreme is an understatement. It can be extremely subtle too as well. Like I said, this is a great flanger. It's probably the only flanger that you need, but I need more than one flanger. This is the Mr. Black Deluxe Plus, and this is a reverb and tremolo. It's trying to emulate the old amplifiers that did this sort of thing from back in the 50s. Does a really, really great job, and this is just an absolutely gorgeous pedal. The color, everything about it. There is a regular deluxe version, which sits this way with one knob. This one, though, allows you to engage the tremolo or the reverb independently from each other. This is the Mr. Black Tunnel Worm Through Zero Flanger. This thing is really, 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 really cool. This is a great Through Zero Flanger. It definitely is a lot more extreme than the Through Zero Flanging that the KLine 0 Point and the Strymon Deco offer. But it is the same sort of principle where when you do the negative version, which is what this is, you actually completely phase invert the signal so that it cancels out completely, and you get a moment of silence right when you hit that moment of zero. This is the Mr. Black Big Payback compressor, and this is a really powerful compressor. I think this really is specifically for guitars for very, very low signal, high impedance instruments, and because sending in a strong signal into this, like the compression that is so extreme, and then it gets this pump back that causes a very, very, very loud transient. It's very, very odd. I'm going to play around with this some more and see what's going on. I don't think there's anything wrong with this pedal. I just think that that's just the way it is. I need to take it over to my guitar player and have him check it out and see what's going on. But how gorgeous. This is probably one of my most amazing looking pedals right here. This is absolutely gorgeous. And that's a sparkle red too. Stonefly Effects out of Canada. This is the Alien Sasquatch, and this is just a crazy gnarly fuzz that goes into crazy self-oscillation. It's capable of being very, very noisy, so you have to be careful how you power it, what you do with it, how you match impedance with other pedals in your guitar and your amp. But first off the bat, that is just absolutely stunning art. And the design and everything, when you open up the inside, it is just glorious in there. It's a work of art inside and out. Next up is another Stonefly Effects. This is the Two-Headed Werewolf Fuzz. And this is a great pedal. This is one of the special ones that has the side switch, which I believe engages another capacitor, which changes the filtering or something. It is just huge. It is a massive box. It's got this really interesting battery compartment as well. Absolutely love this pedal. Again, the artwork, just amazing. Next up is the Minotaur Fuzz and Burn. And this is a distortion with boost. And it has a heavier switch, which basically heavier makes, gives you more bass presence. And it's just a really good distortion overdrive, and it's great for bass as well, I think. And again, great art. Possible legal problem art, but I don't know about that. Maybe it's been cleared. Okay, this is my only abominable effects out of Seattle. This is the Wicked Garden. It is a overdrive and chorus. So the right side is overdrive and the left side is chorus. I really dig this pedal. I think it sounds great. When I jammed with it last time, the only time so far, I got a weird digital ground loop coming out of it, and I had to kind of correct that. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but just how it goes with some of these pedals. Sometimes you have to figure out what plays best with what. This is the Atomic amplifier box. It's an okay pedal. Some people hate it. Some people love it. I think it's pretty cool, to tell you the truth. It is what it is. It's a digital IR cabinet simulator, and there are plenty of IR simulations that can be had out there on the internet and uploaded into this little box. So as I said before, it sounds as good as you want it to sound. A lot of people don't like the presets that come with it, but again, there are a ton of patches out there that you can pull into this. So if you look at this, it's kind of like an amplifier. This little tiny little guy right over here, but it's totally digital, and it emulates an amplifier, and it's capable of providing like reverb or delay, even flanger if you want to get that in there, and some other effects. And it's a total tone shaping tool, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. I love this pedal. Next up is a crazy pedal out of Canada from a company called 6 Degree Effects. The pedal is called Amplitude 11. And this is a dual overdrive. It has a red channel and a blue channel. And you can engage both or independently. It has different diodes that can be switched in. And that's what I love about this. You got germanium, silicone, and I forget what A stands for, but you get this gas switch here. I love it. And this is a really cool pedal. When you open it up, it is even more gorgeous on the inside. This is probably one of the best soldering jobs I've ever seen anywhere, to tell you the truth. I mean, it is amplifier quality soldering on the inside of that thing. It's wonderful. Totally unnecessary for a guitar pedal, but hey, if you want to do it, great. This is the Stone Deaf Effects Fig Fum. And it is what they call a paracentric fuzz filter, which is kind of similar to the Moog ladder filter, I think. Don't quote me on that one. Somebody look it up. But this is really cool because it's like a fuzz, and then it has a noise gate built into it because it gets really gnarly. So since they know that it's going to be just gnarly, they went ahead and put a noise gate in it. And the noise gate really works. So this is a really sweet pedal. And they're not terribly expensive either. And the artwork is just fantastic. The next up is the B-Tronics Swarm. And this is a really gnarly pedal. I want to dare call this the Robert Fripp kind of King Crimson red Starless Bible Black pedal. It just is a wild octave fuzz that I think it has a phase lock loop that tracks your input signal and tries to match it, but it will go all over the place. And it is very similar to the data corrupter from Earthquaker devices that I have shown you earlier, as well as the Way Huge Atreides pedal. All three of these are kind of very, very similar. I would say that this one is the most unpredictable. The data corrupter is probably the one that might be a little bit easier to sort of control. And the Atreides is kind of, well, you know, it's its own thing. It's maybe somewhere in between. Moving on. This is the Earthquaker Devices Mod Rex. And this is a wonderful, wonderful multi-effect pedal that's capable of doing either like a flanger, chorus, vibrato type kind of thing on one side. It's capable of doing a tremolo, as well as a stereo panner and a filter. So you can attach any of those four to separate LFOs, and you can get some great effects out of this. It is a stereo pedal, so it's great for your overall mix or just getting any kind of your stereo stuff going around. This is the ring thing from ElectroHarmonix. One thing that's interesting about this pedal is that it has presets, and the presets can serve to remind you how great this pedal can sound if you just figure out how to dial in the sounds. This definitely probably more for guitar players than synthesizer players, but I really, really like this pedal. Hard to recommend pedal. Number one, this is super expensive, and I definitely got a great price, probably half of what it should cost normally. And the other thing is that when you go and try to find these used, they are all scratched up, almost always just horribly scratched up. But this is a really bizarre multi-effects pedal. It's not multi-effects in the traditional sense. So it has a micropog on the far right, it has a stereo electric Mistress in the middle, and then it has a Holy Grail Plus on the far left here. And what you're able to do is you're able to use each one of these separately or all three in series with each other. And there's a button right here in between these knobs that allows you to change the signal flow and allows you to get a shimmer type kind of reverb out of the whole lot of this. It's really, really cool, actually. But having said that, I don't recommend it because it's just, I don't know, it's so expensive and you can get better shimmer reverb for much cheaper. Okay, this is the ElectroHarmonix Clockworks. So by the way, I'm not going to get rid of mine though if I can help it. I'm going to keep it. This is a very, very different and special pedal. First of all, it takes 18 volts center positive, which is just unheard of for a guitar pedal, but it's not a guitar pedal. So I shouldn't talk about this, but anyways, here we go. This has outputs only. It has 5 outputs, 1 master clock, and then 4 other individual clocks that can be divided down. So you can use this to clock all kinds of stuff. This is a great pedal to have if you're a synth jammer. Of course, if you're into modular, you won't need something like that, but whatever. This is the ElectroHarmonix Talking Machine. And this is just an amazing vocal formant pedal that's like a filter that's capable of doing like kind of like wah-wah, but it does all of these different voice vowel sounds. And it is absolutely amazing, especially with the TB303 clone. This is the ElectroHarmonix Super Pulsar, and it is absolutely fantastic. It just does the panning from the Mod Rex, but it does so much more dedicated and so much more precise. These LEDs at the top go back and forth with the modulation, and it is true stereo panning as well. So this is the ElectroHarmonix Ravish Sitar. It is a wonderful pedal for getting that sitar sound. You can get just the drone or just the sitar or both, and it is absolutely fantastic. It is a very difficult pedal to figure out and to use. It takes a lot of discovery. The manual is very, very, very long. There's a lot of options to go through, all different kinds of crazy keys and filtering, and it's just a wonderful pedal. This is the ElectroHarmonix V256 vocoder, and it takes XLR in, XLR out, And what can I say? It's a vocoder, folks, and it's a really good sounding vocoder, but it's just a vocoder. And that is it. I did leave out one pedal. I forgot the Behringer Vintage Tube Overdrive. This is a Chandler clone, I believe, if you know what that is, and there is a tube inside of there. It's a pretty cool pedal. I'm going to play around with this and try to modify it. And this just came in while I was filming this. This is my newest pedal, the Full Drive 2 MOSFET version by Fulltone. And I got this one for amazingly cheap. And the reason why is because there's a broken switch. I'm going to see if I can fix it. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. But I just tested it out and it works. And that is, of course, the Boss Giga delay doing that. All right, well, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around. This has been all of my guitar pedals. I'm Hayes Anderson, and we'll make some music next time.